Next up, another force for optimism. Professor Russell Roberts, the National Director of Equally Well Australia. What a passionate, positive, can-do, I'm going to make stuff happen person this man is. Wow. Professor of Management and Mental Health Leadership at Charles Sturt University as well. He brings to his role this unique combination, and I think it's worth spelling out because it's a big story. A clinical psychologist, an academic researcher, a tertiary educator, a rural health leader in a whole range of different roles, including as former Executive Director of Mental Health Services in central Western New South Wales, leading over 1,000 staff. Passionate advocate for this cause, for improving the physical health of all of us who live with mental illness or mental ill health. Please welcome to the stage, at his own conference, Professor Russell Roberts.
I'm just going to take a moment. Oh yes, it seems as though the tech is working. Shannon, it's such a hard act to follow, just brilliant. And one way of getting the audience on side is to have tech problems early, because then everyone's sympathetic towards you. Firstly, I want to acknowledge everyone here with a lived experience and the impact that has on our existence and our way through life, and also the impact of physical health on that. Also, I want to acknowledge and pay respect to traditional owners, and in the words, and to quote the Enabling Act for South Australia Province, to say, nothing shall affect or be construed to affect the rights of any Aboriginal natives of the said province to the actual occupation and enjoyment in their own persons or in the persons of their descendants of any lands therein that now actually occupied or enjoyed. So not only has the land never been ceded, in fact the land was granted in 1834. So I acknowledge our traditional elders and pay respects to them. Who here is from, welcome by the way, who here is from South Australia? Put your hands up. Brilliant, this is going to be easy. Who here is not from South Australia? Different people, that's a coincidence, isn't it? Okay, I've got a quiz. I'm going to start with a quiz. I don't think it's going to be too hard. But the South Australians, just give you a hint. I need you to yell out. So, according to the Architectural Digest, what is the world's most beautiful city? Adelaide, thank you. You've got to call this out loud. What was the second university in the world to give women free access to education and degrees? Adelaide University, second in the world. What province and state had the first Aboriginal governor? South Australia, wrong, South Australia. More than Adelaide. I know in New South Wales I think it's Newcastle, Sydney and Wollongong, but it's more than that. I come from Orange. And what was that person's name? Well, who? Sir Douglas Nicholls, yes, well done. Thank you to John. What state had Australia's first Nobel Prize winner? South Australia. Now, here's a tough question. Does anyone know who that person was? What was that? William Bragg. Oh my goodness, unbelievable. Steve Suddy from Nehemiah, they just never failed to amaze. Well done. Billy Bragg, first. Not the Billy Bragg you think. What state or city had the world's first public park? South Australia, Adelaide. The parklands in North Adelaide, 1837. The world's first UK had commons, this is the first public park. Now, this is a tricky one. Which was the first police force in Australia to have bicycles? South Australia. And you know why they had them? So they could catch cars that were speeding going faster than 12 kilometres an hour in the city. It's like electric bikes now, isn't it? They go so fast. What state had the first female judge? South Australia. And who was it? Dame Roma Mitchell. This is important. What was the first principality in the world to give women full universal suffrage, right to stand and vote for Parliament? South Australia. Any New Zealanders here? Any New Zealanders on the... It's not you. It's us. What's the first country in the world to... I forgot to advance my slides. Welcome to South Australia. Welcome to Adelaide. Beautiful beaches. What's the first country in the world to give women full and universal suffrage? No, Australia. Once again, New Zealand, you can't stand. You can vote, but imagine letting a woman actually be in Parliament. How ridiculous. And you know when we started, I'll get back to that later, someone moved that amendment so the vote would get passed down. They moved the amendment to say, women can vote, but we'll move the amendment they can also stand, thinking that everybody in Parliament would go, that's just ludicrous. Imagine a woman having power and authority. And strangely enough, because of that, it passed, and so it was subverted. Who was the first woman? Where did the woman come from? The first woman to have a speech recorded in the British Parliament? Come on, you know that answer. It's pretty obvious. South Australia. Now, does anyone know her name? If you go down to South Terrace, in the Office of Women, I think 95 South Terrace, a little 15-minute walk away, Muriel Matters Society. I'll come back to her later. Now I'm getting a bit trickier here for rural South Australians. Anyone from rural South Australia? Yes? Put your hand up. Be proud of it. We're rural. All right, here's a tricky question. Which town won Ag South Australia this year? Ag town, agricultural town, Ag town. You know, South Australia were hit with it. If anyone gets this, they get free registration to next year's conference. No, I'll tell you where it is. And there's hints, there's photos. Come on, there's no bridge there. Man, getting closer. No, I'll tell you, Maipolonga. You see the cliffs of Maipolonga. And it's amazing, you put a steamboat and everything looks great. They're the cliffs of Maipolonga. I'm a little bit biased because I spent my first 15 years living in Maipolonga. Maipolonga means the view from the cliffs. That's what the Aboriginal word. And you know, we're looking at the cliff, the view from the cliff, and you know what we're seeing? We're seeing 46 people a day, young people dying of preventable physical health conditions. We have seen that gap because we are not creating a bridge from that cliff for people to get access to free, quality and affordable healthcare. We're on that cliff and we're watching people fall over that gap. And I think it's precedent that I came from Maipolonga, a town of, I think we had 300, we had about 70 in the high school. We had to get a dog, a cricket team to field at Long On to collect the ball because we didn't have enough people to form a cricket team in school. It's a tiny little town, which won Ag Town of the Year in South Australia this year. John, I hope you sort of acknowledge that with Chris Prigden. So we're making so much great progress. Despite the news, and sorry, Natasha with ABC, but the stuff we hear on the news, including the ABC, is all bad. But in fact, we're doing great. Our health has never been better. Heart disease has plummeted 78% in the last 30 years. That is amazing. And same for respiratory disease, same for diabetes, same for cancers. It's dropped. And also for some tricky, difficult social problems. The standardised death rate from tricky, complex social problems is getting less. We're making good progress. But now And thanks for Shannon for talking about ball statistics, because I'm going to give you some ball statistics now for the next little while. The bald man with the ball statistics. This is some data from we did every Australian. It's the data from the ABS, the census, the MBS, the PBS and death registers in Australia. I'm going to spend the next 5 minutes just painting the picture. These are the grey clouds that we are currently suffering under. And apologies for those who've heard this. Because whilst things are getting greater, the orange line is people living with mental health challenges. The blue line is the rest of the population. We can see what's happening with this Australian data. This is every person in Australia. That whilst things are getting better for the rest of the population, these benefits are not being distributed equally. For people with mental illness, breast cancer, heart disease, and indeed for stroke, etc., things are getting worse. And indeed, the 20% of people living with mental health challenges actually have more deaths than the 78% without it, from stroke, etc. This is a situation, this is the inequality gap, the human rights breach that we're currently suffering. So just generally, using the data, we're 5 times, people living with mental health conditions are 5 times more likely to die prematurely. And that means before 75 years of age is the technical definition. So to put that in numbers, per million people, for the general population, there's about 200 deaths per million. For people living with mental illness, it's 700 per million. We translate that to the 3.5 million people under 75 living with mental health conditions, and we're talking 1,700 deaths a month. A month. Each and every month for the last 5 years, we're doing another tranche of this analysis starting in December, and hopefully it will be better. But that's worse than our worst month of COVID. And guess what we did at COVID? Guess how we mobilised? Guess how we did everything? Guess what we're doing here? Nothing much, generally. And this is just not over one area. It's not just cardiovascular disease, it's across every disease. And if you go to the Equally website, we have the full report. On the website also is the Excel spreadsheets. You can go into that data, and there's just a few of the main predominant causes of premature death: lung cancer, ischemic heart disease, lower respiratory disease, intentional self-harm, breast cancer and colon cancer. You see the gap. It's 4 to 6 times for all of those things, despite the fact that the incidence is the same or lower, but the death rates are much higher. This is a bit of a complicated slide, but all I need to say is the light bit is this is how many deaths if it was the same as the rest of the population. That's why we talk about preventable deaths. If the death rate was the same as the rest of the population, the light orange would be the deaths. The dark orange are excess deaths or preventable deaths. If people could get the same quality of healthcare and support with affirmative action, those deaths would not happen. Most deaths of people living with mental illness are preventable. And just have a look at the pattern here a little bit, that in fact it's cancer that's taking people out early. Generally cardiovascular disease cancer, it's about a quarter of the population, for the whole population, and also over the entire lifespan. But under 75, it's cancers. Really, and you know, most cancers, if we get onto them, and most of the deaths are because people are not accessing screening. And I've asked this question before a couple of weeks ago, and Ben Wells, I don't know where you are, what do you notice about this graph? Where are you, Ben? Over here, right in the corner. What do you notice about the graph, Ben?
Am I allowed to answer?
Yes, I want you to answer.
The people accessing mental health services and people that are accessing mental health services versus
Yeah, spot on. This is usually a trick question, and Ben got it. I gave this presentation a couple of weeks ago and he got it, so gold star. Free registration next year, buddy, so well done. This is a tragedy of it. These people have all seen a health professional, yet they access health protective behaviours far less than the rest of the population, most of whom haven't seen a health professional. So what are we doing that we're not giving people opportunity to access free, universal healthcare, protective measures? Not enough. And this is the entire system. Just some stats. 3 times more women die with mental illness die of breast cancer than suicide. Breast cancer has a 92 plus survival rate. And when we look across all of the cancers, the current survival rates and the current number of people who are dying each month and the current number of people who are being screened, this is a very complex table, but if we go to the 33% there, if we just had screening, increased screening by 33% for those main 5 cancers, all of which, by the way, have free national screening programs, that would be the same as reducing the suicide rate in Australia to 0. This is, and we spend a lot of effort and time in reducing suicide, as we should. But look at this. These are available programs that we could make a difference here and now. And same for vaccine preventable conditions. More people die of influenza and pneumonia than suicide. Yet we know vaccines are safe and effective. Ironically, when you actually look at the data, it's mostly older people, 60, 65 and above, who die of flu and influenza deaths. It's very uncommon in younger people. Whereas the cancers, it's very common in 40s and 50s. So this is a little bit of the data. They're the grey clouds. So we should be focusing on this. We're here, we know this, don't we? We should be focusing on this for all sorts of reasons. I want to ask a question. If you, and this is an open question here, if you won the $15 million lottery, so I think Cross Lotto, South Australia, 15 million, if you won that, what would you do with it? Just call out. Leave it to me. I'll support some of those tickets, thanks. What? Yes? You put, oh wow, you've got a great heart. What else? Pay off your mortgage, go. What else? One more. Give it to the kids. You know, don't you love it when people win the lottery and they go, oh, I don't know if it will change me at all. I think I'll keep my same house, I'll keep my same job and keep my same friends. And I think, well, if you're going to do it, don't have it. Give it to me. I'll have it. And I'll get a new house. I'll get a new car. I'll get new friends. I'll get friends who have helicopters and yachts. I'll get good friends, not the grabby friends I have now who are poor. I'll ask you another question. What if someone said to you, I'm going to give you 15 years of quality, good quality life, healthy life? What would you do with that 15 years? Wrong answer. Work for the community? Yeah. Yeah. What sort of things, what sort of joyous, important things would you experience, could you experience with that extra 15 years? What are some of the opportunities that you would have to experience?
Do my travel bucket list.
Travel. Great-grandchildren, great. You know what? Absolutely. I mean, it's a complex thing with housing and security and meaning. And this is what a lot of this is about our life's meaning. Because you know what we're doing? We're stealing 15 years from people. When I say we, the system. And think about what we're stealing. We're still stealing opportunities to experience your kids' graduation. Your grandchildren's graduation. Your birth of your children. Look at that old hand, that's a grandparent there. We're taking that away from people. This is not right. So my question is, I know it's simplification, but we know the gap. The gap's been known for years. We actually know some of the remedies. I mean, it's more than that, but we do know these things are effective and will make a difference. What we do need to do is make that bridge across. Now, my question is, why aren't we investing in the bridges? Why are we not taking this seriously? And I think there's an illness in politicians and policymakers. And it's an illness of hopelessness. They've heard about mental health for ages, and it's all on the agenda, but what can we do about it? I think that's one of the strengths of this. Well, what we can do about it is, as a collective, we can do what we can, where we can, when we can. So Monday, you can do something about it. In our call to action, we have actions for each individual at every level. Whatever you do in your network, at whatever level, that will make a difference in changing the culture. We're a collective here. If you're a service provider, you can do something. If you're a service provider, you can do something. If you're a service recipient, you can do something. If you're a policymaker, researcher, community member, politician, policymaker, we can do something. And that's our strength in terms of changing the entire culture. We need the whole collective, the Equally Well collective, to come together. Remember Muriel Matters? Here's some lessons in this. You know, we talk about women's suffrage. That didn't happen overnight. It took about 10 years. There were 7 failed bills in Parliament before, in 1894, the successful bill was passed. There's some other lessons we can learn there too. There were some interesting coalitions. You know, sometimes we can look at the differences, but with Equally Well, we've got to look at our shared purpose and our shared mission. The differences will divide us, but they're a distraction. We've got to come around our shared mission, just like the Women's Suffrage League in South Australia did in 1888. It had the Women's Christian Temperance Union. It had the Moral Social Purity Association. It had the Trades Union Council. It had the Working Women's Trade Union, all working together. Very different organisations, and they had advocates. They had champions. They had Robert Caldwell, who introduced Helen Spence and Mary Lee to the Premier at the time, Playford. So they had people doing the introductions. So it was a 10-year program, basically, to do this. But they got it. First in the world to do it. It took another 10 years to get it into the Australian Constitution, in the Federation. But they did it. Interestingly, it was the premiers, the state premiers in the convention, the Federation Convention from South Australia, that were advocating for it. And so hence we got Section 41 of the Constitution of Australia, because of the Women's Suffrage League in 1888 convincing the premiers of South Australia to say, look at us in South Australia, we're doing this, we're the leaders, the whole country should do it. More so, Muriel Matters, then from South Australia, goes and is a catalyst for the women's suffrage movement in UK and in Britain. So now we're sharing this advocacy internationally. She chained herself. The first speech in British Parliament was Muriel Matters being chained to the grill of Parliament House in the Houses of Parliament in the UK, and part of that grill is now in the South Australian Parliament. If you want to go wander down this afternoon or tomorrow afternoon, have a look. That's there. She chained herself. She made a statement. She got herself noticed. She was yelling out about women's suffrage. The first words ever recorded in British Parliament by a woman from Bowden. People from South Australia know where Bowden is. I'd love to find her actual house. I was looking for it. I can't find it, but it's just 10 minutes away, just down towards Port Adelaide. She also, the other lesson I think is the failures. She also, her and some friends, hired a dirigible, like the blimp thing, to go with the opening of Parliament for King Edward VII, to shower them with 53 pounds of pamphlets, pounds as in whatever that is, 25 kilograms of pamphlets. she hired that dirigible. Unfortunately, the wind was blowing the wrong way. So she never got there, so she dropped them somewhere else. So after half an hour, they were actually going backwards. But calling attention to the cause. We do have to acculturate the cause. You can't expect to talk to people in power for the first time and go, oh yeah, right, we're going to change it. It takes time to socialise and build up a cultural change. That's what we are about. We are about a cultural change to socialise the whole community, particularly those with the purse strings around this. So, we invite you to join with us and sign the petition. The first petition in the world to advocate for the rights of people with mental health conditions to have quality physical health care equal to the rest of the population. So take a moment, please join that petition, and I'll come back to that in a second. I'm going to rip through some other things we can do and then come back to this. That's a really important thing. I really invite you to do it. I'd love you to do it and be part of history. Do you know, initially there was 216 signatures in a petition to the South Australian Parliament. Those names are recorded in history. 4 years later, there was 11,600 in the petition. Those names are also recorded in history. I invite you to be part of that history. There's other things we can do as well, though. We can, MHPod, the Mental Health Professional Online Training, accessible to anyone. It's a 10-15 minute online training, awareness of what you can do, linking to all sorts of resources. Communicate that. Consume a resource. Download that, share this. These are all on the Equally Well website. So that for you, yourself, or people that you love and care for, can fill that in so that when you go and see the GP or your mental health professional, you can say, these are the things I'm concerned with. And so you won't get sidelined, hopefully, less likely to get sidelined. Also, the fact sheets. We've got a number of the fact sheets here, they're online. We were talking about giving education to people, so they're very focused on one particular issue. Also, in terms of joining, we've joined with Mental Health Professionals Network for Communities of Practice. On the website, we have a searchable database. So if you're interested in something that you'd like to do for Equally Well, you can go and say, I wonder if anyone else is doing this in Australia, and with a bit of a description of it and a contact detail. Collective impact is shared activity, doing things together. That's our strength. Shannon talked about that with your tribe, etc. Other things. A bit later today, we've got Ben Wells talking from Nehemiah National. Tomorrow, we are launching the Health Prompt. I really encourage you, the refreshed Health Prompt with Nehemiah National, fantastic organisation, been right behind Equally Well, energetically since 2015. The original CEO was really behind it, and the new CEO is really a strong supporter of that. I'd encourage you when you get that tomorrow, and a shout out to Maddie and the wonderful team at Nehemiah, to fill it in for yourself. There's a couple of hundred people here. If you're representative of the sample of people with mental health challenges, 2 of you will save your life by doing that, by answering those questions statistically. 1 in 500 screens for breast cancer detects a cancer. 1 in 400 screens for colon cancer detects a colon cancer. That's just 2. But when we're talking blood pressure and all the other cancers and other diabetes, etc., it's about 1 in 100. So if we do this, 2 people say we'll be able to have preventive health care to save their life. So we're going to launch that tomorrow. Very exciting. Enlist. If you're not already joined up to our network and our newsletters, etc., jump online and there's a way to enlist. Finally, engage again. We've got to get those in power behind this. So here we are. And my time has just gone off, so that's pretty well darn perfect timing from my thing. Here we are in Adelaide, the cradle of human rights legislation and reform, nationally and international. We're here together now, in person and virtually. Tomorrow afternoon, there'll be a small delegation of us from the conference, and you're welcome to join us, are going to deliver this petition to Minister Butler's office. This will be the first petition ever in the history of the world around this issue. Imagine in 10, 15, 20 years' time, talking to your family and friends and go, You know that fantastic movement 20 years ago? I was on that conference where we decided to go down and drop that in the Minister's office. I signed the first petition. My name's on that for history, nationally and internationally. We really invite you to be part of it. Be first in the world. And finally, I'm going to finish with the words of the Premier Kingston from South Australia and Treasurer Holder on 15th of April 1897 at the Constitutional Convention. And this is what they said, the South Australian Premier at the Constitutional Convention. I hope this convention will do itself the honour and do half the population of Australia the justice which I am asking. Let's just rephrase this to us today. I hope this conference convention will do itself the honour and 20% of the population of Australia the justice of which we are asking. We're asking you to stand with us. Thank you.